everybody. I'm Noelle,
Joanne Gallipol, attorney at Coast to Coast Legal Aid.
and we're here today to just talk a little bit more about understanding some of the ins and outs of service of process, which is a really important aspect of case management and just legal issues that you might face. So thank you so much, Joanne, for sharing your expertise. We know you deal with service issues quite often.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so let's get started. So first things first, we do want to give just a small disclaimer and share a little bit more about the general services provided here at Coast to Coast Legal Aid. But today we're going to be focusing on some service of process myth busting. So I wanted to start us off by kind of talking about three potential scenarios that I think, see somewhat often. So I want to give you the opportunity to bust these myths. So if somebody doesn't answer their door or refuse service, does their lawsuit just go away?
No,
No.
I get a lot of calls. I think people believe that it does. The point of having a process server come out to the door is to alert a defendant that a lawsuit's been filed against them. So there needs to be completed service of process in the court file so that the judge can see there's been due process in the case. But hiding from a process server is not going to end well. It's probably just going to cost you more money.
Okay, so something to keep in mind. And then being served, that doesn't mean you've lost. It's just the beginning, kind of like what you were saying, right?
Right. The case won't move forward until all the defendants have been served. So it's important that when a process server comes to the door, it's okay to accept service from them because it really starts the timeline of everything you need to do next.
Gotcha. So this is a really important step in the process.
Extremely important.
And then is service, that's just when somebody hands you court papers? That's what has to happen?
Yeah, a licensed process server will show up usually at your house, doesn't have to be, but typically it's at your house. And they have to hand deliver you a copy of the complaint. And maybe there's additional documents also, some discovery requests, whatever was filed. But they have to hand deliver it. They can't leave it on your doorstep. They can't leave it in the mailbox. They have to physically give it to you.
Gotcha. Okay, but would that be the only way that anyone can be served for any matter?
No. So, for example, sometimes people think that they should not be accepting service and they'll avoid it. But there are rules that come into place when you avoid service. What can happen is that the plaintiff will be able to use the service statutes to publish your service. And then you may not even know that it's been published in writing. So you don't know when your response times are due, and that may even cost you more money at the end of your case.
So definitely not ideal. We just wanted to start by busting these three major myths when it comes to service of process, and then get a little bit deeper into the nitty-gritty of what this might look like and what your role is in, making sure that service is effected properly. So the most important takeaway that I think we would like you to take from this presentation today is to understand and respect court deadlines and to participate actively in your case. Joe, I'm assuming you would agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Open your mail, take the paperwork that the process server brings you, and don't hide from your legal problem. It'll just make it worse.
Absolutely. All right. So just starting from the top, you spoke to this a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a chance to say, how do you know somebody is a process server? Because we hear this a lot, the process server, but what does that individual look like and how do we know it's them?
They have to identify themselves.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the only way you'll know it's them.
Okay.
They don't have a uniform. They don't wear certain badge numbers. They'll show up in an unmarked vehicle. They'll tell you they're a process server. They'll hand you the documents. But beyond that, there's no way that you would be able to just pick someone out of a lineup and know that they're a process server.
Got it. So it's not necessarily someone in a process server uniform. It would be a more average looking person.
It would be.
So does that average looking person then, do they talk to the judge? Like what role do they play in the case? Do they play any role in the case?
Well, they play an important role. They get you served. They're the reason that you are aware and notified that there's a lawsuit that's been filed. That's their only point of the whole case. One singular role: to come over to your house, probably your house, usually your house, drop off the complaint and any attachments, tell you a lawsuit's been filed against you, and they're done. You're not going to see them again. But now you're on notice.
I see. So it's kind of like a don't shoot the messenger situation. This isn't the person who's in charge of your case or the attorney on the case.
No.
The delivery person.
Just the people that put you on notice.
Right. And what are some important things that process servers cannot do and we should not allow them to do if we are, I guess, receiving? service
Well, like we
process.
talked about a little bit before, they're not allowed to just leave your paperwork in the mailbox or leave it on the doorstep.
Mhm,
They shouldn't be intimidating you or throwing papers at you.
mhm,
They should, what they're supposed to do is take the paperwork and hand deliver it.
mhm,
If they cannot hand deliver it to you, they're allowed to hand deliver it to somebody who resides in the house with you.
mhm.
So as long as there's someone 15 and older that resides in the house, they can take service on your behalf, and the process server is allowed to give them the paperwork for you.
Okay, understood. So we talk about service of process, but what is this process that we're talking about?
The service of process term means that you're being put on alert that a lawsuit was filed against you by receiving the complaint package, which is all the claims that were filed against you, and any documents that go along with that complaint package. So that's what it means to have been served with process.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've been, your due process rights have been protected. You've been given the allegations of the complaint. And now the time has come for you to, take a little control of the case, file your response.
I remember from my civil procedure class, service is you're giving it to me, and then the process is the papers, like you said, whatever documents that they should be handing to you. So that's all they need to give us to do their very important job. So you touched on this briefly, but let's elaborate on some of the consequences if someone is making the choice to avoid service.
Sure. If somebody is avoiding service, there are statutes that regulate that. And it's not surprising because people are afraid to get served. They see a process server come to the door, they hide. Not everybody, but some people, they think they're going to put themselves at risk by accepting the papers. And that really isn't the case. You need to have these documents so that you know what's happening in the case. What do you have to do next? If you don't accept the papers, as I started to say before, you can get substitute served, meaning someone else in the household will get the papers instead of you. And now you're relying on that person to tell you what's going on in the case and that they have the documents. Your service of process can be published. So it'll be in a magazine, not a magazine, but it used to be the Daily Business Review.
Okay.
And unless you're looking through that document, you're not going to even know that you were served. And you might miss a deadline. So the court can also decide that you're avoiding service and, maybe enter an order that says if you don't, file a response by a certain amount of time, that they're going to hold a default against you. So it's always better just to accept the service.
There's a lot of risks. Your private issues can become public if they're doing it via publication, or you can get that default, not things that you want in your case. Can they enter your home, the process server?
No, they can't trespass into your home, but they can come up, knock on the door, and hand you the paperwork.
Right. So it should never be entering your home, just delivering those papers. So just to kind of recap some of the important steps to take are these sorts of issues involving service of process something that we handle here at Coast to Coast Legal Aid?
Of course, every day. Every day. We get lots of calls about someone came to my door. I didn't want to answer it. What do I do? And my response is it's okay to answer the door. It's okay to take the documents, send them to us. We'll look at it. We'll see what's going on. That's why we're here, to provide that advice.
Provide some clarity and help people know how to proceed. So I see, you mentioned the importance of meeting these critical deadlines on, whatever documents you're receiving from the court. That's why we ask people to call as soon as possible to get that help, just so you can, like you said, read the documents, understand the deadlines and what needs to be done. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to leave people with? Because as you mentioned, it can be a little scary to receive service of process. So
it is. But listen, you don't have to go at this alone. When you're sued, contact an attorney. That's the reason we work. That's the reason we're at CCLA. Call us. We'll look at things with you. You don't have to go through the legal process all on your own and figure it out on your own. We're here to help. And we will take as much of that stress off your plate as we possibly can.
So I think in busting some of these service of process myths, we've kind of reframed the whole issue or situation as honestly something that can be beneficial to you in your case. It's an important part of protecting your legal rights, and it's important to comply with those deadlines and participate actively. So thank you so much, Joe, for sharing this great information. If you have more questions or you want to learn more about Coast to Coast Legal Aid, you can take a look at some of these social media resources or the website or scan the QR code. But this has been a brief little coverage of service of process.
Thank you very much.